I'm the stepsister in a pseudo-incest novel, but I developed inappropriate feelings for my stepbrother. Drunk late at night, I messaged him a marriage proposal, yet I desperately tried to avoid and escape this relationship. But he pressed closer, cornering me against the door, simply because he had long seen through all my pretenses. My mom remarried a super rich big shot. My status soared with hers. The only downside was that she kept pushing me to get married. Mom doesn't ask for much. Your future father-in-law must be rich, and your future mother-in-law must have a good temper. As for your future husband, her gaze lingered on my stepbrother for a few seconds. He must be handsome. Me? Finding a husband isn't like making a wish. That night, my stepbrother pinned me against the door. Does my dad have money? I nodded. Is your mom good-tempered? I nodded again. Am I handsome? I nodded frantically. All right, let's get married tomorrow. My best friend was heartbroken and wailing on the phone. When I arrived, she was hugging a wine bottle, crying and laughing. I tossed my bag onto the coffee table. It's just a man, isn't it? I'll find you a dozen tomorrow. My best friend's makeup was smeared from crying. Really? I nodded. Really? The kind that's 1,000 times better than him. My best friend stood up in a rage. You're right. There are plenty of men. He thinks I'll be unwanted without him? I immediately slammed the table in agreement. Exactly. The people who chase you line up from here to there. I'm going to find someone to marry right now. I support you. She snatched my phone and randomly clicked on a contact. She typed, husband. Want to get married? I panicked. You should use your own phone to send it. There's no reasoning with a drunk person. I couldn't get my phone back. By the time I finally got my phone, it was past the recall time. And wouldn't you know it, the contact she randomly clicked on was my stepbrother, Luke Dawson. What's worse? The other side replied. Marry. The next sentence. Tomorrow? The moment I saw his message, my heart briefly stopped. Then blood rushed to my head, and it started beating wildly. Is this right? I thought he would at least ask if I lost a game of truth or dare, but I didn't expect him to reply like that. Putting down my phone, I grabbed my best friend's neck. Look what you've done! My best friend, tipsy, glanced at me and then passed out. The instigator was already dead drunk. I also felt like dying. I really didn't know how to reply. I simply closed the app, out of sight, out of mind. Just then, a message popped up on my phone screen. It was a post from a confessional blogger I used to like a few years ago. Do you still like the person you liked when you were 18? I remembered my heart pounding just now. My fingertips tapped the screen, forwarding and commenting. It seems I like him more and more. The next second, a fan commented, if you like him, go for it. At worst, you'll go to jail. And when you get out, you can go for it again. Madam with the Lotus avatar, please calm down. The first year my mom divorced my gambling addict dad, she found her second spring. My stepfather was very practical with my mom, giving her whatever was valuable. I diligently pursued him for a year, and my mother became incredibly wealthy. My own value also skyrocketed. When she and my stepfather got married, I cried the loudest. This little old me was finally going to live a good life. My stepfather was very good to me. He took mom and me shopping, pointed to those tall buildings, and told me they were my gifts. I felt like he was my real dad. My stepbrother, Luke, was also very good to me. When I was 18, he gave me an island. He almost made me swoon when he swiped his card. This state of swooning wasn't limited to just card swiping. His words made me dizzy. Looking into his eyes made me dizzy, and watching him play ball made me incredibly dizzy. Doctor, I think I'm sick. Until my best friend showed me a novel about a pseudo-incestuous relationship. Wrong. All wrong. I found that my symptoms were exactly the same as the female protagonists. I seemed to have other thoughts about my brother. Realizing this, I was so hot I couldn't sleep, so I went to the balcony to get some air, but I unexpectedly overheard my stepfather talking to him. It hasn't been easy for the mother and daughter all these years. Since her mother married me, I will treat her as my own daughter. You need to treat Jennifer as your own sister. Luke didn't reply. My stepfather's voice grew a little louder. Did you hear me? Luke's voice was a little annoyed. Got it. The surrounding air suddenly turned completely cold. I suddenly wasn't hot anymore. I started avoiding Luke, suppressing the stirrings in my heart, and diligently playing the role of a sister. But how can a young girl's feelings be avoided? I didn't dare tell anyone else, only recording my thoughts on my private Weibo account. Miss Lotus was my biggest CP fan. Every time I posted an update, she would comment immediately. Her fanaticism was astonishing. Later, I went abroad to study and never updated Weibo again. Unexpectedly, after a few years, Miss Lotus was still at the forefront of shipping CPs. My phone suddenly rang. My thoughts instantly returned. I looked down and saw it was Luke. I nervously clicked to answer. His gentle, pleasant voice came through. "Why didn't you reply to my message?" I felt guilty. "I forgot to check my phone," he then asked. "Where are you?" I was silent for a few seconds, then honestly confessed. "A bar." As soon as I spoke, I seemed to hear a light click from the other end. "Send me the address." My cowardly nature kicked in, and I obediently sent him the address. It would be too awkward to meet him later. Instead of facing him sober, I decided to pretend to be drunk to avoid it. I picked up my glass and chugged it. Half an hour later, I saw the man push open the door and walk in. I thought I was dreaming again, so I tilted my head and smiled at him. I reached out. "I want a hug." He picked me up. Realizing he was walking out, I shot up like a cannonball. Luke couldn't dodge in time, and I crashed straight into his chin. I heard him gasp, but he still asked me, "Did it hurt?" A drunk person has no sense of pain. I pointed to my best friend. "My sister is still here." He glanced over. "Don't worry, I'll arrange for someone to take her home. Now come home with me obediently." When we got home, he placed me on the island counter, his hands propped on either side of me, in a position of absolute control. "Do you want to marry me?" I looked at him drunkenly and actually giggled foolishly. He pinched my face. "Acting cute won't work." I reached out and cupped his face, letting out a satisfied burp. "Why are you in my dream again?" The next second, I frowned and accused him. "Why is today different from yesterday?" He patiently asked me. "How is it different?" My hand slid to his Adam's apple, then to his pectoral muscles. "In my dreams, you never wear clothes." After saying that, I started unbuttoning his shirt. Luke's Adam's apple bobbed repeatedly as he controlled my mischievous hands. His voice suddenly became hoarse. "Who isn't wearing clothes?" I extended an index finger and poked his Adam's apple. "You." He wrapped one hand around mine, patiently pressing. "Who am I?" I stared at him for several seconds, then suddenly pressed my lips against his. "You're Gege." Luke immediately took the initiative, grabbing both my wrists and raising them above my head, while his other hand clamped my chin, pulling me towards him. The long and deep kiss instantly left my mind blank. This dream felt terrifyingly real. He stopped, his forehead resting against mine, gently rubbing his nose against me. He had me completely flustered. I let out a drunken laugh. I persisted, my gaze sticky. "More." He leaned in a little closer. "More of what?" Tsk. So verbose. The next day, I woke up sore all over. No one told me that dreams like this could feel so immersive. I rolled myself into a pretzel with the blanket on the bed. My mind was filled with that face getting closer and closer. All I could hear was his, "More of what? More of what? Of course I want you!" Suddenly, there was a sound at the door. I looked over and immediately froze. The next second, I sat up in disbelief. "Why are you here?" His dark eyes stared at me. "Did you forget?" He reached out and pulled open his collar, revealing a suggestive red mark. "Last night, you wrote on my—" "All right, I get it," I urgently interrupted him. "Don't say another word." "Damn it, it wasn't a dream. How could someone cause such a huge mess? Teacher, isn't it sunny outside? Why am I being struck by lightning?" He walked in and knelt by the bed. The pressure was immense. He stared intently at me. "Want to get married?" "Who? Me?" I thought for a long time before I remembered. "That was my sister. She was drunk and sent it from the wrong phone." He nodded, then changed the subject. "You often dream of me?" I took a sharp breath. I stammered an explanation. "That was me talking nonsense when I was drunk." "Is that so?" He smiled. "But you called me Gege." I reacted quickly, pushing against his increasingly close body. "I call you brother, which is also Gege." "So?" "So I mistook you for—" My voice grew softer. "Him." Luke's gaze at me turned cold. Then it surged with heat again. He suddenly sneered, then grabbed my hands and with his other hand quickly pulled off his tie. Before I could react, he tied my hands. He pressed me face down on the bed. A burning kiss landed on my shoulder. I flinched, scalded. "Jennifer, don't you remember what you did last night? Shall I help you recall?" He gently bit my earlobe. I shivered. Last night, chaotic images suddenly flooded my mind, accompanied by a familiar, suppressed male voice. I shook my head, trying to shake out those messy, pixelated images. But clearly, I failed. And at this moment, that male voice was right next to my ear. "Remember now?" I tried to sit up, but he pressed me down, patting my lower back. "What are you doing? Stay down!" My waist instantly went weak. Just then, he was incredibly close, his voice seducing me. Good, Jennifer. Tell Big Brother. Which one is it? He was behind me, pressed against me. He opened his phone and held it in front of me. Is it him? He suddenly became very aggressive. I couldn't utter a complete sentence. I whimpered, physiological tears welling up in the corners of my eyes. He wasn't going to let me off. It seems it's not him. He scrolled down to another photo. Is that him? I shook my head, refusing to speak. Who knew he would become even more aggressive? If Jennifer doesn't speak, Big Brother will just have to continue. He flipped through a few more photos, but my eyes were unfocused. I couldn't see clearly. Finally, I pointed to one at random. This one. This is the one I like. The person behind me inexplicably chuckled. A salty, wet kiss landed on my shoulder blade. His movements also became gentle. So, what Jennifer likes is still me, Big Brother? At this point, my eyes focused, and I finally saw the person in the photo clearly. He bit my earlobe again. If you dare to say you like someone else again, I'll kill you. I woke up again in the afternoon. There were a few messages on my phone. Luke, Jennifer darling, I'm at the company. Text me when you wake up. Ignored. Another one was from my biological father. Jennifer, Dad misses you. Come meet Dad. If you don't come to see me, I'll go find your mother. I'm the kind of person who can't stand threats. But my mom is finally living a good life now. There's no way I'm going to let him mess things up. If a foul mood could curse, then I would be cursing very foully right now. State your business, otherwise don't contact me. He obsequiously poured me a cup of tea. How can we not contact each other? You're still Daddy's child. I looked at him with disgust. Just a reminder, my surname is Delaney, not Kamel. Daddy knows, Daddy just misses you all. Your mom took you and still managed to marry so well, Daddy feels very guilty. Knowing you're doing well puts my mind at ease. I gave him a cold glance and said nothing. He rubbed his nose, hesitated for a moment, then spoke. Daddy's been having some difficulties lately. Could you lend Daddy some money? Daddy promises, this time I'll definitely turn things around. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. After all these years, your cheek is as thick as ever. You threatened me to meet because you're out of money. Let me guess. You've already tried my mom, haven't you? She didn't give you a dime, did she? I stood up. Then let me tell you clearly. My mom's attitude is my attitude. In the past, when he lost money gambling, he would come home and take his anger out on my mom and me. My mom broke several ribs protecting me. When I called for an ambulance, my hands were shaking so much I couldn't dial the number correctly. When they divorced, my mom left with nothing to get my custody. Now, a casual, I miss you, is supposed to make everything that happened disappear. That's not going to happen. I turned to leave, when suddenly someone covered my mouth and nose, and then I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, my hands were tied, and my mouth was taped shut. I heard a voice nearby. It was my biological father, that beast Tony Kamel, on the phone. Brother Chow, my daughter is so beautiful. Why only 500,000? At least it should cover my gambling debts. I didn't expect him to be so insane. He actually wanted to mortgage me to the casino. Footsteps approached. Tony came in and saw that I was awake. There was a moment of panic, but he quickly regained his composure. He tore off the tape and sat down in front of me. You're awake! Jennifer, Dad is desperate. If I can't pay back the money this time, they'll cut off my hand. A leopard never changes its spots. Tony is like a pot of spoiled rice. You can't eat it, and throwing it up is disgusting. I'm just glad my mom got out of that misery early and divorced him. I suppressed my nausea. Dad, you know, my stepfather's family is very rich, and he gives me $1 million in pocket money every month. I can transfer it to you right away. Tony was half skeptical. Really? I nodded. Really? He untied me. If you dare to trick me, I'll sell you to Myanmar. What a desperate gambler would do, I don't know. I won't try to awaken his humanity. I saw through him long ago in his marriage with my mother. The only thing I can do now is buy time. He handed me his phone, and in front of him, I transferred all my balance to him. A moment later, the sound of the transfer arriving rang out, and I didn't miss the greedy expression on his face. So, I struck while the iron was hot. His son is even richer. Sure enough, I heard him say. Then call him now and tell him to transfer 50 million to your card. I dialed Luke's number. He answered instantly. Awake! Brother! I interrupted him, a subtle tremor hidden in my voice. I need money. Can you transfer 50 million to me? The other side was silent for a moment. Of course, but I need to transfer it in 5 installments. Is that okay? I looked at Tony, and only after he nodded did I reply, That's fine, brother. In the following hours, every hour, 10 million yuan was deposited into my account. When the last 10 million arrived, Luke kicked open the door and rushed in, followed by the police. His face was ashen, his expression grim and suppressed. The next moment, he kicked Tony hard in the stomach. Before Tony could catch his breath, Luke grabbed his collar and punched him repeatedly in the face. I walked over and also kicked him several times. These kicks were not enough to offset the pain my mother had suffered, but I just wanted to vent my anger. The police escorted Tony out. I finally realized, belatedly, that I was scared. Tears streamed down my face. Luke held me tightly in his arms. I clutched his collar and buried my head in his chest. Smelling the crisp cedar scent on him, I burst into tears. Luke gently comforted me. "Don't be afraid. I'm here. Jennifer, you did very well. You're amazing. You bought time. You saved yourself." He held me in his arms and kept coaxing me. Actually, if you listened carefully, you could tell his voice was trembling. After crying for a while, I recovered. "I'm going to sue him. I'm going to make him go to jail." Luke accompanied me to the police station to give my statement. By the time we finished, it was late at night. His assistant was already waiting at the door, with a suitcase behind him. "I don't trust you to be alone, so I'm moving in with you for a while." I didn't refuse. That night, Luke picked up an English book and patted the spot beside him. "Want to listen?" "Yes." I climbed into bed and found a comfortable position to lie down next to him. In the past, when I couldn't sleep, Luke would tell me stories. My mom doesn't know that I've always had severe sleep problems. I could only manage a few hours of sleep with the help of sleeping pills. After Luke found out, he took my sleeping pills away. He pulled up a chair and sat by my bed. "Close your eyes. I'll leave after you fall asleep." Luke's English accent had an indescribable sexiness. The syllables that spilled from his throat had an indescribable languor, with a slight hoarseness, like they were wrapped in gentle moonlight. This continued for a year, and I finally quit sleeping pills. But because of this, I became increasingly dependent on Luke. I smelled his familiar scent and suddenly spoke. "Have I never talked about my past?" Luke paused. His large hand stroked my head. "You don't have to talk about bad things." "But I want to." He put down his book. "You talk, and I'll listen." I adjusted my position, thinking about where to start. Let's start from when my mother gave birth to me. After I was born, Tony became addicted to gambling. My mom tried to stop him from gambling, but how can you persuade an addict? He often didn't come home at night. He only came home when he ran out of money. If he lost money gambling, he would come home and beat me and my mom. My mom took me to rent a house, working during the day and selling goods at a street stall at night. She said money was really too important. She wanted me to learn painting, and she wanted me to learn dancing. Everything I was interested in, she wanted to give me. We were both hoping for better days. But that beast Tony, he owed money, and went into hiding. The debt collectors found our home, banging loudly on the door. I hid under the bed, hugging my small self. We finally managed to get through until the debt collectors left. Tony came back again. My mom locked me in the room. Through the door, I could hear Tony's fists swinging and hitting my mother. I pounded on the door, screaming and begging him. The only response I got was my mother's pleas for mercy and a string of unbearable curses. He emptied the house of all its money. My mother said she could endure the pain of a failed marriage, but I couldn't. The day they divorced, my mom and I hugged and cried for a long, long time. Luke patted my back, his voice heavy. "Mom protected you, and now you protect Mom. You are both each other's superheroes." As he spoke, my eyelids started to droop. Before I fell asleep, I didn't forget to remind him, "Don't tell Mom. I'm afraid she'll worry." By the time my mom found out, Tony had already been sentenced for multiple crimes. She ordered me to come home that night. She was unusually serious. I wanted to refuse, but she anticipated my refusal. "I've already told your brother. He'll tie you up and bring you home if he has to." I was afraid of her nagging, so I deliberately dragged my feet until after 6 o'clock before going back. As soon as I entered the door, my mom's face was ashen. She pulled me into the room, and as soon as I sat down, tears started to stream down her face. I fumbled to stand up. "Miss Kristen, you're such a big girl. Why are you still crying? Why didn't you tell me about such a big thing? Didn't I turn out okay?" She cried for a while, then started cursing Tony, and then blamed herself. It's all Mom's fault for choosing the wrong person back then. I felt a little helpless. "When he hit you before, I wanted to send him to jail, but unfortunately, there wasn't enough evidence, so I didn't succeed. Now there's plenty of evidence, and I finally sent him in." I hugged her. "Mom, you should be happy. That scumbag is finally completely out of our lives." My mom was still down. I decided to distract her. "Mom, you said last time that your mahjong friend's son is very handsome?" I was a little curious. "How handsome?" she blurted out. Definitely not as handsome as Luke. I wanted to ask a couple more questions, but she immediately stood up. I'm going to see if dinner is ready. Well, the process wasn't important. At least her attention was diverted. The two main pillars of the family were battling it out in the kitchen. I turned back to the living room and sat down next to Mom. She was watching a short drama, with the volume turned up high. I leaned against Mom and watched with her. The male and female leads were chasing each other in the rain. The male lead grabbed the female lead's arm. Hysterically, "What are you so afraid of?" "I'm here," the female lead cried, her face streaked with tears. "We're siblings. How can we be together?" The male lead spun around in anger. "We're not blood-related." I guiltily shifted my butt. Mom tutted. "Exactly. If there's no blood relation, of course, you can be together. Male-led, choke her, force a kiss on her, tell her that bitter fruit is still fruit." I was shocked. "Mom, you're a bit avant-garde." She looked at me again. "What do you think?" Before I could finish, Mom interrupted me. "Dinner's ready. Go wash your hands." I felt relieved. Standing at the sink, I was a little scared. I almost admitted it. This meal made me sweat. My stepfather served my mother food. Luke also served me food. My stepfather peeled shrimp for my mother. Luke also peeled shrimp for me. I buried my head in my food. I didn't see my mother and stepfather exchange glances and then suppress their laughter. After dinner, the doorbell rang. It was my mother's mahjong friend. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. "This must be Jennifer, right? Just as beautiful as your mother said." My mother said proudly, "Well, look who she's born from. Last time you said you wanted to introduce the two kids, and my son happens to be home, so I'll just make a call and have him come over." A criticism session instantly turned into a blind date? A dark, shadowy gaze fell on me from behind. I looked back. I shrugged. "Please don't attribute my parents' actions to me." His eyes narrowed. My legs went a little weak. Fortunately, my mom was on my side. She sternly stopped her mahjong friend from calling someone over. "Although my demands aren't high, I do have some. At the very least, the future father-in-law must be rich." After my mother said this, my stepfather suddenly coughed lightly. For a moment, all eyes were on him. He smiled. "You all continue," my mother then said. "The future mother-in-law must have a good temper. As for the future husband," her gaze lingered on Luke for a few seconds, "he must be handsome. It's best to know their background thoroughly." My card-playing friend was beaming. "My family meets all the criteria you mentioned." My mom tilted her chin towards Luke. "Is he as handsome as him? Is he as tall as him?" "Well, no." My mom refused without hesitation. "Then it's out of the question." After saying that, she leaned over and whispered something mysterious into her friend's ear. After hearing it, my friend's eyes widened several times. Her gaze darted back and forth between me and Luke. I took a bite of watermelon and meticulously spat out the seeds like a pea shooter. I didn't forget to complain. "Mom, remember to buy seedless Kirin watermelon next time." My mom gave me a look of disappointment. "Go to bed, child." That night, I was lying in bed playing on my phone. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. I opened it, and Luke stood outside with wet hair. Water dripped from the man's dark hair, and his white shirt was mostly wet, clinging tightly to his body, revealing his chest muscles. I gasped. Where had a little old me ever seen such a grand scene? His dark eyes looked at me, and even his voice was incredibly alluring. "Jennifer? The shower head in my bathroom is broken. Can I use yours?" I was so overwhelmed by the sight that I didn't know what to do. "Okay." I mechanically stepped aside. As he brushed past me, his index finger traced a line across my palm. With a whoosh, blood rushed from my earlobes all the way to my cheeks. "You devil!" My mind was racing as I listened to the sounds from the bathroom. My face, which had just cooled down, flushed again. I buried my face in my hands and rolled around on the bed. No, I need to distract myself. I sat up, remembering a movie my best friend had shared with me a few days ago. She said it was her collector's edition. You could watch it alone, or with someone else. She thumped her chest and promised I'd love it. I happily pressed the remote. The next second, intimate sounds filled the air. Oh my God. Why didn't she tell me it was this kind of movie? Starting at 0 frames, with no build-up at all. I fumbled for the remote. When I finally found it, at the crucial moment, the remote wouldn't work. Just my luck, Luke came out after his shower. The images on the TV became more and more pixelated. Don't look! I ran over and covered Luke's eyes, but the sounds from the male and female leads made one imagine all sorts of things. I then covered his ears. Our eyes met. My face was like the bottom of a burnt pot, hot enough to cook an egg instantly. A faint smile flickered in his eyes. "Jennifer, You like watching these kinds of movies? I... I don't. He pressed closer, until he had me pinned against the door with nowhere to retreat. The intimate background sound made me want to disappear into the ground. He encircled me in his arms, his hair still dripping water, dangerously sexy. At this moment, the sexy man spoke. Is my dad rich? The question was baffling, but I still nodded. The next second. Is your mom good-tempered? I nodded again. Finally. Am I handsome? I nodded frantically. All right, let's get married tomorrow. At this moment, the TV again emitted sticky, ambiguous sounds. Luke chuckled softly. Ah. Don't laugh. The ambiguous atmosphere was at its peak. I couldn't take it. I covered my face as if to hide from myself. Luke couldn't hide his smile. He lifted me with both hands. I gasped, instinctively wrapping my arms around his neck. He sat down by the bed. He reached out his long arm and grabbed the remote control. He pressed it. The movie that made me want to die of embarrassment finally turned off. The world became quiet. Just as I let out a sigh of relief, he put his arm around my waist and we switched positions. I was pinned beneath him. For a moment, my heart seemed to stop. I only saw the obvious amusement in his eyes. Our gazes met. He lowered his head, and I instinctively turned mine away. 2 seconds later, I turned back. He quickly kissed me. Slowly, I began to respond to him. He was no longer content with just a taste. From my lips to my ear, he carefully advanced, conquering territory. Jennifer, I like you so much. In the morning, I was woken by a knock on the door. Honey, are you up? Mom's coming in. I heard it vaguely. What? I suddenly opened my eyes. Reacting quickly, I kicked the man beside me out of bed. He looked at me, a little dazed, with messy hair. I didn't have time to explain. You hide quickly. My mom's coming in. Seeing him not move, I anxiously pulled him up and pushed him towards the bathroom. You hide in there. Don't come out. At the same time, my mom came in. She looked at me suspiciously. Your face is so red. Do you have a fever? As she spoke, she reached out and placed her hand on my forehead. She mumbled, No fever. Oh, right. Where's your brother? No one's in the room. I was so scared I sobered up completely. My voice instinctively rose. I don't know. My mom jumped. You child, if you don't know, you don't know. Why so loud? That's because I have a guilty conscience, Mom. She pulled me to sit on the sofa. Her gaze swept over, then stopped. How do you have a pair of men's slippers here? Huh? Do I? Maybe I wore the wrong ones yesterday. Her gaze shifted, stopping at my feet. Then what about the pair on your feet? The next second, the bathroom door opened. Mom, don't scare her anymore. Luke walked over and sat beside me. Can someone explain this to me? What's going on now? I gestured to Luke with my eyes. He blinked innocently at me. I looked at my mom again. My mom wasn't surprised at all, and was even very serious. Mom has always been thinking, what kind of person should I entrust you to so I can rest assured? My mom stroked the stray hairs sticking up on my forehead. Later, I thought it was quite good if you didn't get married. She changed the subject. Now, I think there's someone worthy of entrusting you to right in front of me. Luke confessed to me a long time ago. He scared me when he knelt before me that day. My mom deliberately kept me in suspense. Guess what he said? I shook my head. Can't guess. He said he hoped I would agree to him pursuing you. I felt like crying a little. She shoved the household registration book into my arms. Go early and come back early. Your dad and I will wait for you at home. My mom flashed out of my room like the wind. At this moment, Luke suddenly knelt on one knee in front of me, holding a ring in his hand. I frantically pulled him. You stand up first. He couldn't help but laugh. Jennifer, I'm proposing to you. My mind buzzed, and the whole room became a blur, with only the person kneeling before me remaining clear. I've been thinking for a long time about how to propose to you, and I've even made several versions of proposal plans. Finally, I realized that waking up and seeing you is my happiest moment, and I guess it's yours too. Hearing this, my tears instantly streamed down. So, I can't wait to ask you at this moment full of happiness. Jennifer Delaney, will you marry me? I reached out my hand to him. Of course, I will. About my mom's secret being revealed. It all started on the day we got our marriage certificate. After resuming updates on Weibo, my followers grew rapidly. There was even a CP super topic. After leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, I took a photo with our marriage certificate and sent it to our group of 4. Back home, I opened Weibo, and my private messages exploded. It was as lively as Chinese New Year. The reason was that my biggest fan, Miss Lotus, posted a photo of a marriage certificate in the super topic with the caption, The CP we ship finally got married. In an instant, the number of replies in the super topic surged. I looked at the familiar photo on my phone. Then I looked at the photo I sent to the group of 4. It finally dawned on me. The lady with the lotus avatar who was shipping CP was actually my mom? Back home, my mom was holding her phone, smiling brightly. I looked at her faintly. Miss Lotus? Does the marriage certificate look good? My mom. It looks great. Is this CP good to ship? Of course. She suddenly sat up. Let me tell you, I'm the super administrator of this pseudo-incest fan group. She met my eyes and fell silent. I gritted my teeth. Miss Hihua, you've kept me in the dark for so long. She chuckled awkwardly. Finally, under the pressure of my gaze, she guiltily admitted it. But I swear, my intention wasn't to spy on you. During that time, you weren't doing well, and you weren't willing to talk to me, I thought. Maybe being a mother put pressure on you, or maybe you find it easier to confide in strangers. Later, I found out that your trouble indeed came from me. You like Luke, and because of your dad and me, you chose to suppress your feelings. But darling, how could I ever let you suffer? More than anyone, I want you to be happy. From the beginning, I never let your household registration move into the Dawson family. You've always been your own head of household. I was stunned. Why? Before I married your dad, I read a pseudo-incest novel. Weren't you afraid that Luke and I wouldn't like each other? She shot me a glance. You're like me, a sucker for good looks. Besides, the way Luke looks at you isn't innocent. Only your dad, that old fool, didn't notice anything.